So we're going to all of the things that then build the momentum for you, because as each one of you were talking, everybody was smiling, everybody was like, oh yeah, I've got this, and it's just, I'm going to keep going with it. It's like it builds the momentum for you to move forward. And so I want you to make sure you're really focusing on that, because as we get into this next part, we're going to start looking at here's where we're at, and then here's where we want to go. And I don't want you to lose the momentum, because we do need to have somewhat of a plan, and we don't have to have every step figured out. But if we have our vivid vision, and I know each of you have been working on your vivid vision, then I want us to take a look at and think about next year. And with your vivid vision, I want you to think about a three-legged stool. So anytime you're looking at making goals or creating a strategy, I want you to think about, is it good for the client or customer? Is it good for the business? And is it good for the employees? Now, if you're a solopreneur, that would be you. And if you're not a solopreneur, that would be your employees and you. And when you think about a three-legged stool, it stands up because all three legs hold it up. When one leg is way too short, it topples over. Or if one is way too long, it topples over. So it's really about, it doesn't have to be equal. That's not what I'm talking about here, but making sure when you're looking at and creating goals and you're looking at next year, how do we make sure that it's good for the business, it's good for the people that we serve, and it's good for the internal people that we serve, our teams and or ourselves? Does that make sense? Okay. So when you think about those three things, and let's think about, is it good for the business? When you think about those three legs, what would you say is the most important? And there can be a lot of things that go underneath it, right? What is the most important under each one of those legs for your business to be where you want it to be within your vivid vision? Does that make sense? I'm kind of talking some nebulous stuff here this morning.
Can you say it one more time?
Sure. So when you think about your vivid vision and where you want to go, like I know that I want to have a multi-million-dollar business that employs numerous coaches, that serves women in business, some men if they want to, that's fine. I'm not going to like shut them out, right? But that serves women to help them level up and have the business and the life that they want. And so when I think about what I'm going to do over this next year, and I want you, this is like helicopter view. We're not down in the weeds. When you think about then the three-legged stool, what's best for the business, what's best for the clients, and what's best for the employees? So as an example, and maybe this will help you, and you're welcome to steal some of these. For me, the three like main goals that I have for next year, the first one for the business is to exceed gross and net revenue expectations. The next one is deliver next level RIT style service and value for current and future clients. And the third one is position the Lit Up Life for future growth. Now, when we talk about future growth, you might say, oh, well, how does that have to do with the employees, right? Well, all of these kind of hit the employees, and we'll go to the next level, because underneath each one of those, like to exceed my revenue expectations, we got to have a pretty kick-ass marketing campaign, right? So we need to increase exposure. I need to increase authority. Like there's certain things then that go under that. And on the third one around position the Lit Up Life for future growth, it's all about hiring, retaining, and developing the best employees. There's other things in there, right? The first one also has budget stuff. So I want you to think really high level. And it may not be like, it may just be that you want to make your revenue goal, right? And whatever that revenue goal was, I wrote them down somewhere, but I don't have them handy. But I want you to think about in relationship to those three legs, at the end of the year, to get you to that 3-year vision, what needs to happen? And I'm pulling you out of the weeds here because we tend to get into the real tactical stuff. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask because we can talk through them.
I'm sorry if y'all can hear my dogs barking.
No, I can't hear him.
Okay, good.
I'm stuck.
Okay.
Um,
So share with me what you've got. What are you thinking?
Nothing. Um, I guess I'm really stuck on what I'm trying to come up with.
So Kathy, when you think about next year at this time, so let's start there. When you like think about having the book and having a coaching business, what do you want to have happen by the end of the year?
Um, like the dream,
The what? I'm sorry.
the dream,
Yeah.
not what I think I'm supposed to.
Well,
They're different.
yeah, we'll break that down here in a second. What's the dream?
Okay. Did I have like 2, concierge type clients, and I have time to do all my little meditations in parks and stuff, and all the income I, want.
Okay. And how much would
Want
you
to
charge?
earn. I want to earn what I what I spend at least.
Yeah. And what would you charge those concierge clients?
Um, the dream.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's unrealistic.
Well, to your mind right now, but let's get the dream out at least.
60,000.
Okay. Okay.
I'm
So why the
blushing because I know that's unrealistic. Look at how red my face is.
well,
It's
Kathy, let me
bright
ask
as my
you.
shirt.
I don't think that is unrealistic.
Mm.
And part of why I say that is where you are today and who you think you are today, it's unrealistic. But to the woman that you want to be, it's not unrealistic. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I spent 70 grand on coaching in 2021.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you how much I've been spending. I think
Right?
for years. I think
Right.
it's definitely, 5 figures every year.
Yeah. So I want you to tap into that, right? And so what I think part of this work is about getting yourself to that level of where you feel like you're worth charging that. And it may not be today. I mean, and I'm not saying it is or isn't. I haven't coached with you, so I don't know. But like I remember when I first started, I laugh, but 10 years ago, I charged $275 an hour.
Yeah.
I'm like, first of all, what was I doing hourly charging? Well, like, and there's so much growth that's happened that now
Mhm.
it's nothing for me to say it's 25 grand to be a part of the mastermind or it's 20 grand to personal coach with me. Right. And some people
Mhm.
say my rates are still too low, but I feel comfortable with that. Right. They may raise in the future. But so part of that work is then getting you to believe that what you have to offer someone and the outcome of that is worth that. So we're going to continue to work on that, just not right at this particular moment.
Mhm.
But then when you say the should, what do you mean on the should?
Well, I feel like I should, you know, like the first thing, I'm blanking on her name. The first time a normal coach, first thing they'd say was you have to be on social media and you have to like get the word out and you have to get a number, you got to start small with a number of clients, to get there. And I'm like, okay, if that's what you do, I'm out. So that's why I kind of keep giving up because I don't want to do social media. I don't want to do a bunch of clients.
Yeah. So Kathy, do you want to know how I did it?
Uh,
I didn't do social media.
You're on it
A
now.
little bit. I had a little bit out there.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm doing them now because I'm trying to increase my pond, right?
mm.
When I first started, I went from 38K to 230 in 18 months. And I didn't do it through social media because I was the one posting. And I didn't have time for that shit. I did it through relationships by just calling people and talking to them. As a matter of fact, everybody that was in the mastermind that I was in before, because my coach just canceled them all, I've sent a meeting request to the ones I stayed in contact with and said, let's get together and chat. Right. It doesn't mean that they're going to sign up in April, nor am I going to solicit them to start in April, but I'm continuing to build and foster those relationships. So you have to figure out the way it is for you. And this belief in yourself, I might offer up that part of that is a way for you to run away from that because you don't believe in your heart, because you said it's not realistic, and you laughed when you said it, for you to charge 60 grand. And so you don't believe that right now. So then
I have this weird thing. Um, it's like I believe it. I know I'm worth it. I've seen it. I just seem to surround myself with like they don't believe it. And
then you need to start surrounding.
it's like that's why I get frustrated because I feel like I know it, but like no one else in my world sees it. I don't
Yeah.
mean to like take over your plan. I'm just like maybe we could
Yeah. Well, we talked about that on your one-on-one last time, and let's continue
yeah,
to talk about that
yeah.
because I think you vibrate and you attract what you vibrate.
No, I really think I vibrate at they won't see my value.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, so I've been working for years on me seeing my value. I was like, no, I know my value. I just tend to draw in people that won't see it.
Yeah. So we need to dig into that because the law would say that if you're bringing in people that wouldn't see that, somewhere you're not seeing it, even though you've done some work on it.
Ah, that's why I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm always weird, but I think it's that it was safe for me to hide my value from my sister.
Yeah.
So I really think it's like that I can believe it secretly.
Yeah, and I think there's something to that. And so hang on to that, jot that down so that I don't forget either, because I think
Okay.
big bind right there, right? That you have to keep it secret. And so therefore you're not like, and it's not social media, but it's like you're vibrating at this level then of keeping it secret so that then you're attracting people that keep it secret and they don't see it.
That don't want to see the secret. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. And so in this case, when you're thinking about a big goal, I would say one of your goals then that's good for the business is figuring out like, what is this double bind and breaking that double
Let the
bind?
secret out.
Yep. So let the secret out. So that to me would be a goal for you over this next year, because in
'Cause it was
order
hard
to,
just to admit it to this little safe circle.
and thank you, because that's some great
It's
work.
huge.
Yeah. And awareness is the first step. Which is also maybe part of why you hate social media, because then it has to be out there. Now, I'm not suggesting you
I was
post.
like, there's a lot of reasons why I hate social
I
media.
know.
And I don't really go into it, but what I want is, I think that there's value with the potential clients that I want to work with that I don't have any social media, that the word won't get out that I'm working with them and that kind of thing.
I agree. And so now your goal then would be, how do you put yourself in front of those types of clients?
Right. Right. That's my unanswered.
But shifting
That's the book, right? That's part of the benefit of the book.
Yeah.
And shifting that belief that you have to keep it secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's big, Kathy. Those are two big pieces. Put those there. Absolutely. Nice. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else have any? I'm just going to grab a Band-Aid.
Random
So we're
sentence of
just-
the day.
So what I understand is we're just going to throw a Band-Aid on it and we're going to be fine.
That's right. No, I sharpened my knife when I was doing stuff this weekend, and I went into the dish, like to wash the dishes, and it just sliced my finger, and it keeps opening up and bleeding. So, okay, sorry. I digress. Thank you for sharing, Kathy.
Thank you.
Anybody else have some that they came up with?
These are goals for 2024.
Yeah, like big, high level, not tactical.
Yeah. Do you want to go, Carrie? Or you want me to go?
No, go for it.
Go. So thank you, Debbie, for the examples, because that helped. And I was sort of thinking about putting in perspective that this year we'll be opening up at least one Cinnaholic, with the goal of opening the home stretch in Fort Wayne and then in the fall in Florida. So I feel like I need to plan my year out. I need a big calendar. So for the leg of the client and the customers, I wrote down that we would have authentic, positive service.
Mhm.
So I think that can translate to everybody. Good for the business itself would be to be profitable through expansions.
Okay.
So get these babies making money on their own. Support my habits. Being that teacher, it says I need to work hard because I like expensive things. That's, I feel, speaks to my heart. I like trips. And then good for the employees. I wrote continued growth, which I think for our teams, I'm excited about these opportunities because I see this as a path to 6-figure incomes for my team. So
yeah, that's awesome. Have all of you picked a word for 2024?
oh, haven't even thought about it.
Yeah, you might think about that, because one of the themes I heard, Kathy, for you was, and I don't want to use the word visibility, so I don't want to throw you off with the semantics, but something about letting go of the secret, right? Like letting go.
The reveal.
Reveal. There you go. I love it. And then Carrie, I kept hearing growth, right? So this profitable through expansions, continued growth.
Mm-hmm.
Right, for employees. And now I'm not giving you your word for 2024, but just give it some thought, because sometimes that's helpful.
Yeah, the first word that came to my mind when you said 2024 was expansion, because that is just we are expanding in the business, expanding in Carrie's growth. It's pretty.
Okay, well, let me know if Kathy and Carrie, you change your word, and I'm going to get Pam's here in just a minute. But I'm going to write reveal and expansion. Okay.
So for me, my number one goal, of course, is to increase gross revenue and net income beyond where we were last year, right? Because we didn't quite hit it this year, but would love to close in on $1 million a year if possible for gross revenue. The second one is adding services that our clients need and want to make us a more full service firm. So things like HR services, outsourced CFO, financial planning and wealth management, M&A assistance. And then the third one is to position my team to take on more responsibility and make decisions without me, so that I can lead as a true CEO and not be a bottleneck in anything and not be the go-to person for any one client unless I want to be.
That's awesome.
Those are my big goals.
Yeah, so increasing your gross, getting to 1 million, adding services that the clients need, and positioning your team or empowering them to handle more and make decisions.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Now, thank you. As we go through this, and Kathy, you might have a couple others that you decide to put in there. But as we go through this, part of what I'm trying to do is help you to start some of the business plan, because ultimately, and if you haven't done this, maybe we should take a moment to do this too. Have you figured out your values, like what values you want to have, like your company stand for? And if not, I would recommend it. Now, there's a piece in the Vivid Vision that kind of starts to drive to that, but it's just a good compass, right? To keep you kind of there. And ultimately, a business plan, a tactical business plan, well, let me back up. A strategic business plan should be like a 1-page, right? That you could very easily look at. And then what happens is you create a tactical that then blows out all the stuff that you have to do, right? That's where my marketing person like highlighted everything January, February, March. I'm like, nope, this is a year-long process. I mean, if we do it faster, great, but like, don't kill me here. And so part of this, like, as you look at this and the things that you've written down for these kind of high level, oh, and Pam, I want your word here in a second, for these high level areas, that's what's going to drive then the next steps that we kind of step into. So Pam, do you happen to have a word or have thought of one? And if not, that's okay. You can get back with me.
Yeah, I haven't thought of one yet.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely growth, right? Growth in revenue, growth in services, growth in my team.
Yep.
So,
Try that on for size.
yeah, we'll start with that one.
Mine's integration. You compartmentalize way too much. So I'm trying to integrate. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a few minutes. I have, what time is it? I have 11:56. I'm going to give you until 10 after the hour. I want you to take your kind of 3, and you could have 4, but don't go over 4. But like take your 3 or 4 kind of high arching goals for the year. And I want you to kind of start to massage them and write them out. And here's the deal. Like Pam, one of the things that I would recommend to you is like, I don't think you have to go into all of the different services as examples. You know, like try to shorten it and make it very clear and succinct, because then what will happen is you'll blow that out. Like one of the tasks might be, let's brainstorm and figure out what other services we want to offer. We know some, but are there other ones out there, right? So I'm going to give you that kind of 13
So
minutes
can you give me an example, like what Disney's answer would be, or something like that? As I seem to get it more by example.
for the 3 things.
Yeah, like what are we trying to find? Like Disney would be like imagination. Is that what we're going for?
No, so like in this last one that we just talked about,
Uh-huh.
talking about one of yours, and I'm going to misquote this here, Kathy, so I'm hoping you wrote it down, was
Uh-huh.
how do I let go of we just had hearts floating around. How do we let go
So funny, I
of,
missed the hearts.
I know, I don't know how. I just talk with, there it goes. I talk with my hands, so things just happen. But how do I go about letting go? Like one of yours is to let go of the bind that you need to keep it secret, period. You're looking at me like you don't know if that's really a goal.
Okay. I think I know what you mean.
Then the second one would be putting yourself, like, and I come up with some different words here, but like putting yourself in front of people that would be potential clients for you. Like, how do I put myself in front of people that are different, that would be my clients? Because part of it's what you're attracting now, and we're going to change that attraction, but part of it might be, how do you put yourself into places? You know, like I've thought about, heck, I met a whole bunch of people when I was at Savannah Wellness Spa in Phoenix that would be great mastermind people. And I thought, maybe I should make that an annual trip, right? Because I'm around other, there's a lot of women there or whatever. So, and then if you have another one, if you think about, it might be building, and you may already have it, Kathy, but it might be building them. What do you do with these concierge clients, and building out what the package looks like? Doesn't mean you do it today, but it might be building out what the service looks like.
So
Yeah.
if I'm saying that I want my clients to have authentic, positive service, then we're gonna serve them that way. So would one of my goals then be to like create a training program that for the team
I don't
that
want you to go there yet.
not there? Okay.
Nope, not there yet. I just want you to get to a point where people understand what authentic positive service means, right? So if it means that you need to say, I want us to show up as who we are
Mm-hmm.
in a positive way to serve our clients authentically, like something to help kind of, like yours almost needs to have a little bit more description. Pam's needs to kind of shorten up a little bit. And then Kathy, I think you're really close to having all three.
Okay.
So you've got 10 minutes. I want you to get these three really solid in your head and take a quick break. And if we're done before then we're done before then.
Okay.
But if you need to potty or stand up because your Fitbit's telling you to stand up and move. And I'll be right back because I've been drinking way too much liquid. I'll be right.
The real reason for the break just came out.
She revealed that, didn't she? Trying to use my word.
There you go. Revelation.
Mute jar.
You're muted.
You see the realization happen? I was like, oh, might help. Okay, so now I want us to read them to each other, like in a state of belief and in a state. I don't like the whole fake it till you make it thing. I think that's kind of bullshit and that's not authentic, but it's more of be it till you become it. Right? Like, so step into, and I think I did that. Didn't I do the meditation with you all where you kind of thought about yourself up on the big screen?
Mhm.
So I want you to step into that woman for a moment. And just remember what that was and tap into that. And now share with each other, and they don't have to be perfect by no means, but share with each other the kind of 3 or 4 overarching pieces of direction that your business is going to go in next year. Carrie,
I'll
you
go.
want to-
I'll
yeah,
go.
thanks.
Okay. So for our clients, I had written authentic positive service, and I wrote, "We are who we say we are and do what we say we will do. Our clients know they can expect honest, positive communication and service that exceeds their expectations." Is this what you were looking for?
Yes and no. Yes, meaning
I'm like,
yeah.
maybe I misunderstood the assignment.
I don't know.
No. So that was a really great description.
Yeah.
If you were trying to put this into a 1-pagers for your employees,
Yeah.
and maybe it is just authentic positive service because you then describe what that is. But what would be on that 1-pager that would be able to lead you going forward? Like
Well,
just a
yeah.
1-sentence statement.
A one sentence. Well, because then my brain switches to tactical. Like I would create my, coach and train my employees. So I guess I don't understand the distinguishing between the two of them.
Yeah. So what I'm looking for here is, for example, in every business, we treat each other and our clients with authentic positive service.
Okay. So I think I just have 2 sentences written instead of 1 sentence on
Okay.
each of these.
Yeah.
So for the business side, I wrote the profitable expansion.
Yeah.
I said 2024 is the year of expansion with launches in Fort Wayne and out of state. We expand thoughtfully with strategic moves, key hires, building relationships in each new city.
Yeah, and that's perfect because it doesn't have to follow my exact thing, right? Okay, so what's your third one?
For employees' continued growth. Opportunity abounds in our organization as we open more businesses and more markets in 2024. Key employees share in this growth and are rewarded for their efforts. Employees grow both personally and professionally and are highly valued for their unique talents.
Perfect.
Okay.
Now, if you can get that down to like keep that, because that's stuff you're going to want to share. And if you get it down to, and maybe what you said at the very beginning is what resonates for you. All I'm thinking of is, like if you can get it to like a 1 sentence for your business plan, but if what works for you is what you wrote, keep that.
Okay.
So kind of like you want it to be at the level where like you could put it up on the wall as like a boom, but like obviously there's more behind it that you would put in your extended plan.
Yep.
But like if you were just going to put these goals on the wall for everyone to see, it would just be concise and high level.
I like that. Goals on
Yeah.
the wall.
Yep. Thank you, Pam, because I was struggling with how do I articulate this. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
The wow, words on wall. Sorry.
That's such a great acronym. Words on wall.
Words on.
Okay, Kathy.
On the books. Words I see on the wall.
Kathy, you want to go?
I'm not sure I did it right because mine was more of a puzzle I'm trying to solve, and so maybe I just need to reorganize how I said it. But I came to 1 sentence. How do I reveal my worth to people, comfortably offer services, and ask for payment?
I love it.
Yeah.
You know, because part of then what you're going to do around, well, I'll share the next steps here in a minute. I don't want to confuse you. Yeah, perfect. Pam, what about you?
Okay. So I came up with 4, even though I started with 3. So exceeding gross revenue and net income expectations with controlled growth.
Okay.
Expand services to offer a full service menu of services.
Perfect.
Empower the leadership team to make decisions and lead autonomously. And be open to partnership and investment opportunities.
Now, each of you, that's great, Pam. Thank you very much. Each of you has very different businesses, right? So I don't want you to compare to each other's. And so like the more and more I'm thinking about it, Carrie, like your definition and what you have, like being able to put it up on the wall so that people understand it, you might be working in 2 or 3 different franchises, right? So kind of keeping it that way, I think works for you. And then Pam having yours like really succinct and to the point work for you. And then Kathy, what works for you is that idea of here are the 3 things I need to do, like letting go. God dang it. Sorry. Letting go of my secret. And the other pieces that you said, I had written them down a little differently from when the first conversation. So if you feel really comfortable with those, now what we do is we say, okay, and I'm going to give you an example. So part of the next piece is about the strategy. So those are kind of the big overarching goals. So the strategy, as an example for the first one that I have about exceeding gross and net revenue expectations, and we have a spreadsheet that shows all of that. The first strategy is I need to increase exposure, right? So I have to attract and convert people. So that increased exposure. Then I also need to build authority. And the third one is partnerships and collaborations. And then the budgeting, accounting, finance, right? Like I kind of wienered out on that one because that's the whole like develop a projected income, do budgets, identify KPIs, all that kind of stuff, right?
I didn't write any of those down.
Okay, I'll reshare them. So the
Okay.
fourth one is all the budgeting, accounting, and finance stuff. The third one is partnerships and collaborations. The second one is build authority. So like, how do I build authority? And the first one is increase exposure. So that's what's going to go on the wow, the words on wall version. Underneath that first goal are these 4 strategies. Now there's a whole lot of stuff underneath that we'll share on the next layer. Then the second one, where it's delivering next level RIT style service and value for current and future clients, that one then has, let me get to it here, sorry. That one then has 5 different strategies. One is program offerings. And what that means is looking at and auditing each one of our program offerings and deciding what's missing. The second one is content. And that's like, do we offer free content, workshops, whatever for funnels? So that escalation path is the third one. The fourth one, do I want to create a product line? I've got some ideas of some stuff. And number 5 is added services ? Right? Like always investigating, almost like Pam had one of her strategies of doing that. And those are the strategies then to help me get to that big goal. Now it's not all the tactics. And sometimes when you're writing these down, you're going to think of tactics. Go ahead and write them down, right? Because like for me, well, let me go one more. So the last one around hiring and developing and retaining, I forget. I need to reread it here. I should have this down for position the lit up life for future growth. So in order to position us for future growth, we need to hire, retain, or hire, develop, and retain a world-class team. That's the first one. Then the second one is utilizations of tools and technology. That's the only 2 for that one so far. And so underneath, like at the very beginning, when I'm talking about increasing exposure, underneath that, we have the podcast. We have a whole lot of things under the podcast, like becoming a guest on other people's podcasts, like all those tactical things, Carrie, that you were talking about, right? Like being a guest, securing 2 higher profile guests on my podcast, setting up a process to make sure that we're vetting those people. Then what's posting look like? What do the show notes look like? Then the second piece underneath it's podcast, email, website, Google presence, social media, networking, communities, working the money map. So like we have networking TV or network TV magazines, all this stuff then listed underneath there, right? That we blow out even further. So what I'm trying to get you to is to now think about, out of those 3 or 4 things that you picked, what is it, as an example, and I didn't write the exact words down for each one of you, but what exactly would make you profitable through expansions? Right? And stay at the big rocks here. So like when I talk about increasing exposure, podcast, website, email, right? Like think those higher levels, because then there's things that get done and it's not all you doing it. Now, Kathy, for you, it is all you doing it because you're a solopreneur, but you might hire someone in to help contract with some things. So we're not going to flush through this entire thing right now, but what I want you to do next is go down now between each one of these 3. This is the last level we're going to go to here, and then we're going to shift to a couple of things. But I want you to think about, like Kathy, when you think about, what was the first one? Repeat it to me because it was very eloquent.
How do I reveal my worth to people? That one?
Yeah. So
How do I
then,
reveal my worth to people, comfortably offer services and ask for payment?
yeah. So the very first one, what are then, and this is where sticky notes come in handy if you have sticky notes. What are some actions, like when you think about, say the first one again, Kathy, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time holding on to that.
Because you don't see my worth. That's why.
No, that has that's bullshit.
Sometimes the joke is more important. How do I reveal my worth to people, or my value, like how I would be valuable to them?
Yes. So
Um,
what are some things that you could do to help show that value to other people? And I'm not like saying for discussion, but that's what I want you to think about next. So then same thing, Carrie, on the positive service piece of it. What is it that we can do to help people have that positive service? All of you redid them very eloquently, and I didn't write down any of those. I just kept the first ones that you wrote. And then same thing, Pam, what can I do to increase my gross and net income? In some cases, it might be the service piece too, right? But let's go to that one. Adding services, then what does that look like? What are some of those services? Because what ends up happening with this, and it doesn't mean it all has to be done this year, but it's starting to get you closer to that vivid vision. And then some of these will be things that, may be decided first quarter, maybe fourth quarter, however far you want to go into this, but then it becomes a working plan. Like we're actually putting it into a spreadsheet with the topic, and then we'll have responsibilities and deadlines, because there's a lot of responsibilities that sometimes 2 people share, and we need to understand what it is that people need to do. If the business plan, though, becomes too big and too crazy, and it takes more time to update a business plan than it does to do the work, then fuck it, get rid of it. Right? Because just by doing this exercise here, your subconscious now has attached onto these thoughts, and you're already going to start seeing. And once you share them with your team, they start already going towards that direction. Some may not, right? But for the most part, if they're on the same bus with you, once you start sharing this, they're going to start thinking that way too. And you'll start to look at things and say, okay, does this provide authentic positive service? Is it making us profitable through expansions? And are we continuing to grow our employees and each other? And if we're not, then why are we doing it? It's not a hard stance of, okay, then we can't do it, but it makes you think about, okay, is doing this getting me closer to or further away from my goal? And what I will tell you is the universe will poke you, right? Because we all have these things. Like, how do you feel valued in your business?
That's a hard question when you are the one leading the business.
Mhm.
That is really difficult because, and something I've struggled with some at periods over the last 10 years, because where do you get your positive affirmation? If you're a words of affirmation person or
Yeah.
or whatever that is, sometimes you just deal with the ick, right? So I think we're all thankful we've kind of created businesses where we get to be in charge. We get to pick who is along in our business journey. But I was just saying that that's a hard question sometimes. How do you feel valued?
Yeah.
Because are you valued by external rewards or internal rewards? And you need both.
Mhm.
So,
And I would say part of the value for you, Carrie, is being seen as a leader of your business. Right. And part of why I bring this up is because then if and when, and you already have started empowering your employees to do it, you might run into right? Because that like internal value kind of comes into play. And so as you walk through this, there will be some times that you look at that and go, oh yeah, I'm going to have to like think about my own, right? Like
yeah.
control maybe, or my own, like, where do I find my value differently if I'm not the one that they're always looking to, right?
Yeah. I've given up my control issues though. I'm happy if I don't have to do things anymore.
Right.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we'll kind of identify that. So it's up to you. I have some other things we can kind of go into, or if you want to keep going down this route and use some of this to continue to work on this, I am happy to do that and do the other pieces at a different time.
What's the end product here? You keep saying it's a business plan, but is there a format for that? Is there like what's the
I
end
haven't
product?
created one format, Pam, for each, like,
Okay.
because I think each of you approach things very differently. So I don't want to say, oh, here's my spreadsheet, go use this, right? Because that may or may not work for you. So
Mhm.
what I would recommend to you is, like, the first time I did this, I just started putting things down on a Word document. And so I'll share it with you. And so, and this is what worked for me, was to go through and basically, and I think I sent this to you all about kind of the elements of a tactical business plan. And if I did not, I'll shoot it to you.
Okay. I think you might have.
And so, like, the mission, the team's mission, our values, these are all in the Vivid Vision. And then what our goals are. And so for each goal, I just started listing down, okay, well, I need to increase my exposure. Well, how do I do that? And then I started typing podcasts. And then I'm like, oh, there's a lot of things under the podcast. So I started typing some things, but then I gave this to my team and Meredith went through and added more details. Right. So then this almost becomes a little bit like a project plan. Now, Kathy, I don't think you have to go this far, right? Like, and that's where each business is different. So I just went through and started typing. And literally, when I first started this, Increase Exposure had podcast, it had being a guest on a podcast, increasing our listenership. Then I had like posting and what our show notes are. And then I didn't really have any, and I had metrics. I put metrics on all of them, right? Then I had email. Okay, well, I just put, I want to know what are our stats today? Like that's what I typed. And then she went in and changed some of this, right?
Mhm.
And all of them had metrics. I want to understand in this case, because it's a marketing. So the website, I just had website. And she put in some of these other things, right? And then I just started typing Google presence, like reviews in Google My Business. Like I did put those. Social, I put in the metrics. What are they today? That I want to hire someone to help post. No, I think she did that. And I didn't put anything else there. Then networking, I just put these three things. How do I expand nationally, internationally, and identify networking in person events to go to, or virtual.
Mhm.
So I just started kind of typing some things that made sense to me. And then we're going to put it into more of a spreadsheet to keep track of so we can filter to see, okay, if we had these things in January, like how are we doing on this? Or we could filter by the project, right? Like if it's about the podcast. So that format is going to work for us, but that may not work for you. And Kathy, yours might be a one page that has those three things. And it might be then, okay, if I'm going to ask for the sale, I need to know what I'm selling. And what does all that include?
Well, it's like the proposal I worked on is translatable, you know.
Right,
it's-
exactly. But that's one of the tactical things then that you're going to do within that business plan. So the end result is to get you something that's workable for you to kind of track, but not to the nth degree that it drives you bonkers.
Right. So basically we've got like the goals that we want to accomplish. The
Mhm.
strategies are the things that are going to help us get there. The tactical piece, the tactics are the ways to carry out the strategies.
Yep. And then,
Right. So we're just,
yep. And if you want to look at implementation, that's where then having a column to say who's responsible for it, when it's due, and any notes that you have around it, right? Or codependencies, because sometimes there's dependencies on other people.
Mhm.
You know, which you might use, and Carrie, you might use a little bit of that, but maybe not. And then Kathy, like you and I won't, you know, like some of the marketing stuff for me will have codependencies because Sarah will need to do some things in that. But then Kathy, you may or may not have some of that.
Well, I do. I mean, the ghostwriter
Oh yeah.
did my website, and
Yeah, yeah. Good, good.
my son did my business cards and logo, and you know,
Yeah.
I'm hiring that out.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Well, and I'll say some of this sounds like some of the brainstorming I've been doing. Lachelle got me hooked up with her Trello. And so I've been on Trello working through that. And I'm like, oh, I need this board just to think about all my Cinnaholic stuff. And I need this and areas I can brainstorm. And like, I'm sort of loving it, having a good time getting all the thoughts out of my brain and a little bit more organized. So I'm super guilty of keeping everything in here.
Yeah. And most of us are, right? And sometimes we don't realize it until you do hire a team. And then you're like, oh yeah, I need to like get this out of my head and get it somewhere else, right? And so part of why I'm recommending, I really like the words on the wall sheet, is because then it's about, we're going to share your vivid vision with each other and present it because you want to practice presenting it. And then my recommendation is to you to share it with your team. Like, here's where I want to go in 3 years. Here's where I want to be in 20, what would that be? 24, 25, 2026, right? 2027. And then here's where I want to be in 2030.
yeah, I actually have a state of the company meeting scheduled in January for my team so that we can talk about like the last year, what's coming up for this year, like all the
Yeah,
things.
great. Yeah, that's great. Almost like a retreat.
Well,
Like,
when Mark and I sat down today to go through, like, I was like, I showed him yours. We went through this, like, this is like, I want to hone this in for us. And I feel like I've been blocked probably because I need to do it with him. And as we think about all the things that are happening in 2024, kind of had the realization that 2027, I think, is a different animal for us when we look at that, because I think in 2027, we're coaching and helping people open businesses.
Mhm.
We may be done opening our own at that point. And then what does it look like in 2030? Well, my baby husband turns 50 that year, and maybe we sell everything, right? And so we'll have that 2027 is a coaching consulting year, and 2030 is the, sell it all, travel the world, and coach from the internet. You know what I mean? So it was interesting just to sit down and think about what I'm talking about today in 2024 and what I'm thinking about in 2027 are not the same. So.
yeah. And so my question to you would be, Carrie, and this is a really good exercise then, because the important thing is, and you're brilliant enough to figure this out, but the important thing is to make sure that what you're doing then this next year sets you up for where you want to be in 2027.
Yeah. And part of that is just like, I think documenting my process to open businesses this year, right? We're going to go through this process again. So.
And you can have fun with it, doing some video things or, Yeah.
That's where I'm like, oh, I need to make account and grab some videos. Like, is this the year of TikTok starts to start documenting opening businesses? I don't know. Maybe. So,
Yeah. And so some of that is about even you, as you look at your positive service expansion and continued growth, part of your continued growth is then also taking a look at how do you capture what you do
mhm.
so that you can start to set yourself up as an authority in this, because you can start to set yourself up as an authority in this right now and possibly have clients before 2027,
Right.
right? You could have a client or two and then go full force. Who knows? But like, as you start to put it out there, then that can change that.
Well, I did write down in my notebook, Debbie, when you talked about good fit for employees, I was like, and Carrie, like, like I need to figure out. There's maybe I have a four-legged stool, so I think you're right. I think that's important. There's some validity, and sometimes I think some of the coaches on Facebook haven't done anything. Like, wait a minute, you've done nothing. So we'll see what this crazy year looks like. How many we've opened 5 businesses so far. We'll see what happens in this year.
Now, what is the home stretch? What is that?
I'm not sure if I talked about it, but what they do, so they're out of Cincinnati. It's a new franchise. They've been open there this is their 4th year, and they've opened up affiliate locations in Indianapolis and Columbus. And so what they do is their marketing is to realtors and home sellers, and they'll go in and put new flooring in, paint. If grandma passes away and the kids are selling the house, they're going to go clear out the house, update it, and get it ready for sale. And the projects are anywhere between like $1,000 to $20,000. Nothing that needs a general contractor, no plumbing, and they're hiring subcontractors to do the painting and the flooring with some others, with Sherwin-Williams Flooring, who knew that they could show up. And they're doing it all really quickly. So like getting a quote in 24 hours or consultation in 24 hours, a quote 24 hours after that, usually start the work within 5 days. And the franchise disclosure document is like the most information I've ever seen in one. And in 2022, the Cincinnati location, which really started rolling in 2020, they had a net profit of almost $400,000.
That's great.
And they're on their way to do 600 probably this year. So that's one location. So that makes me excited.
Yeah.
And so, but it's one thing I really like about the business is it's a win-win-win. It's a win for the realtors. They're selling at a higher price. It's a win for the sellers, selling at a higher price, and it's a win for us because we get the business. There's no losers in the deal.
Yeah.
And the buyer gets a move-in ready house.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, they don't have to worry about contracting out for painting or any of that. Yeah.
It was rather serendipitous as we learned about, I believe, no coincidences. We were on the way home from selling our house in South Bend. We had just closed on it. Mark had spent a month getting it ready, painting the walls, driving over to South Bend, doing stuff, cleaning, all this stuff that Homestretch does. And the buyers at the table said, oh my gosh, we just love that the house is move-in ready. Like we had a couple offers fell through on other houses, but they still needed work done, and this one is just perfect. And I said, oh my gosh, let me show you what it looked like before we painted the kitchen and the bathroom, and showed them the before and afters. And they were like, oh my gosh, we would not have even put the offer on the house. Yeah. And they ended up offering us $15,000 over asking plus a $10,000 escalation clause, which we didn't end up needing. We did get another good over asking offer, but like that was confirmation. And then we learned about this opportunity on the way home. So it just really felt serendipitous. So.
Yeah.
I would say my only experience related to that is the realtors that we work with in my business are all high-end realtors, right? They're selling $1 million homes and $500,000 and up mostly. They are rebranding themselves to offer that service, right? Like that's what's going on in the realtor world right now, that they all go to these conferences and they're like, oh, you need to offer all these. So they're becoming like their own Homestretch, right? And offering it as part of their 6% that they're charging. For some things they're charging more for. So I'm curious how that would play out, because you say like one of the people that they market to are realtors.
So I would say this, one, it doesn't work for $1 million house. They're not going to renovate $1 million house necessarily, and because people coming in want the colors that they want to redo the cabinets the way they want it. They're not necessarily the target market for a home stretch. And
Okay.
one of my good friends who's a realtor, she's got a painter and she's got this and that, but then the seller has to call them, the seller has to manage the project, the seller has to do everything, and it's a lot when you're already trying to move.
Mhm.
And so, and the realtor doesn't have time to be a project manager as well, which is essentially what we are. So, and the other thing is Homestretch does it quickly. Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of times I've been like, oh, let's get our house ready for sale. I mean, it took Mark and I 2 months to get that house ready for sale. We didn't even,
Yeah.
then the house was empty, but we just couldn't get there, what work schedule. So it's the easy button. So
I'm curious if they're subcontracting it out, how they get those subcontractors to be able to move that fast, right? Because and I know, I call a subcontractor and want them to come paint in my house. They're not coming this week. They're like, I'll see you in like mid-January, right? Like, so if they're not. You said they're not employing.
yeah, they've
The
got
people, right? It's all subcontracting.
It's got a secret sauce though. I mean, they're literally calling the Sherwin-Williams. They're vetting their subcontractors. Their subcontractors get enough work from them that they're coming over quickly. Because
Nice.
Pam's only going to use them one time, but
Right.
we're going to give them job after job after job.
Right,
And-
that's key.
And where the money is, that's where they go. That's my experience with contractors.
Mhm.
And we're hiring a subcontractor, and like Hal's painting crew isn't really doing a good job of marketing his own stuff. Right. So, I don't, you could probably do it cheaper if some of you want to do it yourself, but you probably couldn't do it as quick.
Right. Yeah. I think it's a
I think there's a
fantastic
big
idea.
market.
Yeah.
There's a big market for realtors to kind of subcontract with Homestretch.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We said the same thing about the contractors, and his response was, it was Wednesday. We were in Cincinnati. He said in a half an hour, I could have a painter ready to paint your whole house on Friday. And like, he was that sure of their process, and
Mhm.
in Fort Wayne, he said he could do that in Fort Wayne from Cincinnati, not having any connections in Fort Wayne. I was like, okay, I believe you. So, and good guys. So sorry for the home stretch derailment.
Oh, I've been curious because I thought, well, maybe you signed an NDA, right? Where you couldn't disclose what it was. And you kept talking about this other franchise. And so then when you said Homestretch, I'm like, oh, she just said something. I need to find out what it is. Okay. So to kind of put this together for you, you're working on your vivid vision, which describes the future and where you're headed. You just wrote your 3 or 4 main goals for the year, the high level goals. And the question is do you want to go and spend some time? Let's do that. Well, maybe let me ask the question. Sorry, my mind got ahead of my mouth there. The next step then is to figure out what are those tactics that would get you to that point, right? So that's where the exposure, the authority, all of those types of things come into play. And then what does it take to get those things done? Right? What does it mean to build authority? Well, it means I need to get off my ass and write my friggin' book, right? It means that then what I have to do, the tactic of that is to then I need to block out time each week to start organizing my writing, right? Like, and write. So that's where I'm trying to get you to that level of understanding what those things are. Not that you have to put the everyday day-to-day stuff in here. This is just around those big projects so that if you have a team that you're working with, they understand that the goal is like, we want to increase our listenership in the podcast. I'm about to put a percentage to that as soon as we talk Thursday. Because they're going to come with some of those things, but then it allows you to add the team into it. And then the buy-in continues to happen and it grows, but make it work for you. So my question to you is, Because originally I had, let's look at the last 47 days, because this was supposed to be 47 days, before the end of the year, on what you want to do between now and then, or talk about some things that might stop you. So we can either go that direction or have some time to work and talk about some of the things that might stop you tomorrow morning, because we have a call tomorrow at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, our normal Q&A call. So quick raise of hands. How many of you would like to take the next 15 minutes and go ahead and start working on what are some of the things that are underneath the strategies that will take me into the tactical piece of things that need to happen to make that occur? Okay. Okay, so let's do that. I want to take the next 10 minutes and I'm going to give you, go ahead and put yourself on mute and work on and come out if you have questions. And then we're going to wrap by having you share one or two that you came up with. But I want you to think about, for each one of you, just pick one of those goals right now that you have and start putting down, what does some of the actions need to look like to make that happen? And it could be that you're going to figure out what other services, right? Like it could be that. And then once you figure out that service, then it's about putting together a project plan to make it happen or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll give you 10 minutes. Okay. So we have about 5 more minutes. Any questions, thoughts?
I filled up a whole page, so.
So much to think about.
Mhm.
This group feels like a lot more like that you prefer to like, let's get on, talk about it and do some workshopping at the time, because it feels like we all fall into this maybe a little bit where unless we have like sequestered time, right? It's harder to do. So,
Yeah,
Okay.
the structure
I
is
feel like
nice.
it's really helpful because I do work in examples so much. So knowing what you guys are doing and knowing what your answers are, I'm like, oh, I can see how to apply that to my situation better.
yeah. And my goal would be too, that when you guys have this, you know, kind of blown out, if you want to share it with each other, we can take a call and do that. Might not be a bad idea. And thank you, because I was actually working on mine too, putting it onto the WOW page, the one pager to stick to the wall. So,
Yeah, I think
okay. So to
I know
end
what
our
I'm gonna
call,
do.
oh, I'm sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
I think I know what I want to do. I'm gonna um, um, do those meditations because it always kind of puts everything into that flow.
Yep.
But like write the elevator pitch, I would say, pretending I have no issues about hiding. That'll be step one.
Yeah, good. Good. And just the awareness will shift how the awareness that you've been keeping it a secret and you don't want it to be a secret anymore will cause you to start changing your behavior.
And then also address everything that was holding me back, like
Yep.
make it so I'm revealing in a safe way. And so I'm like, if I get in that mode, then I know this, I'll trust my gut to say this person's not safe to reveal to, this person is.
Yep. Yep. Awesome. Okay. In the last few minutes, I would love to know, what's one thing you're looking forward to over the holidays?
Hmm.
Having everybody together.
Nice. So all your boys are coming?
Yep, all my boys, all my nieces and nephews that live down the street.
Fun.
And so yeah, it's been a long, I guess we've had them all together for the wedding that we went to earlier in the year, but like, when you're all focused on wedding stuff, it's hard to like really get to hang out together. So, yeah, Friday night we'll all be together. We're going out for my husband's birthday. And then Saturday we're doing a escape room with the kids.
Oh, fun.
Because we have to split into 2 escape rooms because they have so many people, but
Oh, I bet that's fun. I've never done one of those. That's a good
Oh,
idea.
they're fun.
so fun. Yeah.
Kathy, what about
Good
you?
group activity.
I don't know. I think I'm happy I'm not going to be alone.
I hear you. I hear you.
I got my youngest here and kind of captive, and then and my daughter's talking about coming, and she might be bringing her roommates.
Well,
But
good.
I
Then you'll
don't
have
know.
quite a few.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And Carrie.
Well, unfortunately, I won't have everybody here for Christmas, but I'm excited about going to church this year. I haven't been that excited about Christmas Eve church for a while. I think we have a new pastor, so church has a lot of energy in it right now. And I'm excited for the day of Christmas because nobody will be on the road doing anything stupid. Like one of our vans in our last break got hit by a school bus.
Mike.
Everybody's fine. It's like
Yeah.
stupid stuff happens all the time. So nothing stupid will happen on Christmas Day because we will all be right here and Mark's making prime rib. Woo!
Yummy.
I love you guys. I don't mean to rush, but I have another call that I'm leading that I have to hop on a different Zoom line. And so thank you for this 2 hours. Keep plugging away on these things. And then I'll talk to you tomorrow at 8 a.m.
All right.
I
All right.
see.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yeah.